Today I've got a new video to do in the way of one of the lessons for the 4AW Long Range Precision Shooting School. Something I thought I'd do in a different way. I've got lots of videos of, as I've mentioned below, of particular details, that sort of stuff. This one I'm going to do where I basically explain what's happening in one of my long range shots in the process that I'm actually going through. Makes sense of it. Maybe a little different to what you're doing, maybe different what you're taught, but I explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, and hopefully that's sort of helpful for some people. A lot of people probably have seen the videos and understand what I'm up to, but this one here is shooting the 30-338 Lapua Magnum, so it's a Wildcat cartridge, one still legal here in Western Australia, and it's set up to we're shooting the soup can at just over 1800 yards, and the process we're going through to doing that. So here we go. This is basically what's happening in this video. To start off with, we've already set up. We're on a little platform on the side of the hill. We're shooting out over to 1800 yards. We've got about, I forgot what it is, about a 40-meter drop to the target, so it's basically the same as shooting flat. And we already have all our conditions and bits and pieces to where we know roughly what's going on. We've set up a target, so we know what's going on there. We've set up a range drag in the middle of things, so we know what's going on there. And then we're sitting on the top of the hill where we've measured the weather, we've checked our distance, and I've also looked at the weather report and things like that to work out, to give me an idea of what I'm going to need to do shooting-wise in the way of the settings I'm putting into the scope. Now, this video, I'll go through all those things in various ways of rifle setups and bits and pieces in later videos, and maybe in this same sort of format. It's something you think that is worthwhile. But this one here is really about the shooting form and what I'm doing shooting-wise for this actual, what I'm actually physically going through. To start off with, now I've got all those bits and pieces and I'm kneeling down behind the rifle. I put my dart through, I put my settings in there. It's the easiest time to do that. So that's where I'm doing that. And then I lay down behind the rifle. Now, laying down behind the rifle means that I'm starting with one knee right of the butt pad, and the rifle set up basically to be in line with my collarbone or alongside my jaw. That's where it is. And when I lay down, where I want to end up with is, it's not immediately straight like down the middle and straight down me. No, I'm slightly to the left. If you were a left-hand shooter, you'd be slightly to the right. But where I'm actually trying to get things is where, if you drew a line straight through the muzzle to the butt pad, it's going to go right down my body and come out through my right heel. That's where it's going to end up. So basically, it's more on my right side because I'm a right-hand shooter, and that's where I want it to push. The reason I want to do that is I want to make sure that when I get pushed back, that I get as straight, by the recoil of the rifle, I go as straight back as possible. So if I'm off to one side, then I'm more likely to push around like this because it's not going down, that's going to lever me across to the side. And same to the other side. The other side of things is, so that's the position. I'm not doing the leg spread out thing. I'm not found it advantageous for me whatsoever. It works nice what we're doing. I'm also not doing the chest on the ground thing. You'll notice when I'm down behind the rifle, and you'll notice this of a lot of precision prone shooting, is that they have a taller bag, and then you are able to shoot where your chest is off the ground, so you're a little less constricted in both your breathing and how much that affects your shooting. But I'm using the bone structure. I'm using this triangle or box-shaped thing of a bone structure is where I get my support from. So nice and sturdy on that sort of stuff, and it goes down through my gut and my pelvis, and my thighs are what then are planted on the ground behind me. So that works me at over 200 pounds and 6'4", but it also works for 5'1.5" and a lot less weight in the way of Sam to be able to sit behind this. So it's not, it works for us. Let's just go with that. The other thing I'm laying down on is a very rigid, not padded mat, so everything is on that. There's some grips for the bipod up the front, so the bipod won't move. I have the tall bag, but I also have my adjustable bag base, which means I've got adjustment vernier adjustment, essentially up and down and left and right, so I can actually make sure the bag's packed properly. And that's the other thing that you haven't seen in me setting up the rifle. I have made sure it's packed into that bag. Sometimes I'll do a bit extra when I'm actually setting up, getting ready for the shop. I'll push down, make sure it's packed, but that bag is packed properly around the bag rider. Obviously there's a bag rider on the rifle, and then so it's set up there so that it's sure it's not going to be packing down shot after shot. It's ready to go. So I'm down there. I'm on my A-frame set up there, and I'm with the rifle line of pushes straight down it, coming out my right heel. I'm set up in that format. The next thing you're going to see me do, I've set up the rifle basically to where it should be. I know the shot, I know the area, so I know roughly how my bipod should be, that sort of stuff. So it's roughly in the right place. I dial in the data, which I've figured out through the various processes. I'll also use an app, but I would have figured out basically what I needed the night before, and then we fine tune it at the day. I have checked the distance. I use a GPS app in that situation. With a larger target, I'll use a larger rangefinder, but on a soup can, easier to use something I have GPS based. And then I dial in, and you'll notice then I adjust up onto target, so I make sure I'm up on there. It's basically all in the right places. Once I get up on target, you'll tend to see me do a forward and back slide in the rifle, make sure it's all settled there, make sure everything's operating properly, and get the beginning of the natural point of aim sorted out to where it's headed in that place. You also see I then use the parallax knob, focus knob, we're going to call it, side of the rifle there, and I go through it and make sure that it is nice and focused, as focused as I can get it. That's just a general guide. I don't stop there. You'll notice it might be hard to see, but I'm moving my head around in a small value to where I can actually see the target moving around, the sight picture move around in the scope. See it moving around, and the crosshairs are staying on target. That's your parallax. Always check it. Very important. Both form, packed, support, and parallax are the things that'll make you consistent, and you most likely do well on your first shot, and they'll be relevant to the second shot. So that's what you're seeing in that format there. Make sure that's right, that's right, that's right, data's right. Then I do a final backwards and forwards, make sure that the rifle's traveling properly where it's going to go. You'll notice that a bipod system, and any bipod system that I use for a tactical / precision shooting, has this forward and back rock to it. I want to make sure that where it's rocking, the barrel isn't going up and down. If you go too far forward and then it rocks back, the barrel's going to be going down and up as it comes back. If you're not doing that at all and you're just going with recoil, then the barrel's going to be going flat and then down as it recoils. So I want to make sure it's on the sector of the arc where it's going to go straight forward and back. So that's what we're talking about. That little tiny bit of movement there can actually be close enough to dead straight. So that I've got that sorted out. That's working. Make sure my point of aim's going. Fine tunes things there. Sometimes I'll pack down the bag a little bit more to make sure it's in that place properly. Then I'm getting ready to pull the trigger. You'll also notice the things that I do in my shooting is that the classic of stay in the glass, make sure you can operate your bullets in and out or rack your bolt in and out, and that's how your most accurate sort of shooting is. Listen, there is a sound logic to that. And if your parallax isn't right, if your form isn't completely consistent, if the rifle's form isn't completely consistent, then staying on it can really help with that situation. If all those other things are right, it's not that relevant. I haven't found it to be that relevant. I really can do off and be more engaged in everything else, looking around the place, and still with the form that is locked in, I can feel it exactly with the rifle that's doing the right thing, with the barrel that's set properly. Well, you see the shoot. That's how it actually performs. So that's it. Trigger, when I go to do the trigger, listen, it's something, to be honest, it's almost a little bit hard for me to explain because I do not think about it. What is actually happening, and what I know I had to train myself to do, was I find my trigger, I get the trigger feel. So that's a two-stage trigger, but a single stage trigger. I make sure I can feel my trigger. I don't like a trigger that's too light to actually feel. I have a moderate grip on the rifle. I'm not throttling it. I'm not pressuring it. I don't change the aim with how my hand engages with it, but it's there and I can feel the trigger. And then breathing, yeah, I do, which I can see myself do it. I don't think it at all, but I tend to start to take some slower, longer breaths, and then come down to an exhale, and then I hold my exhale and then squeeze the trigger. And yes, I'll build up pressure and I'll pull through the trigger. I don't yank the trigger, I don't snap the trigger, I actually pull through to where I'm ready to go. I felt my preload and I let the trigger break when I want it to, but out of everything being consistent. The moment you start trying to yank the trigger to get it exactly to a spot because you're struggling to hold, you're going to start to move your shot around because of that action. So it really needs to be a squeeze through the trigger brake to make sure it works properly. And when you've got it all right, then you really do have those moments of pause. I don't notice heartbeat. I don't notice breathing issues. Well, obviously I'm holding my breath on the exhale and holding my breath at the end of the exhale. And then I pull the trigger. You'll see that it sits back there. It doesn't jump off. It doesn't bounce. In big kicking rifles, sometimes your hand will move off there. Don't try and fight it. But in most of that situation, still a reasonable hit to it. Now it is a moderately heavy rifle. Well, I suppose it depends. It's for a 33-38 Lapua, so something with that much powder and a 245 grain bullet. It's 24 pounds, so it's probably light compared to some, but it's still got a reasonable weight to it. But that doesn't do anything wrong. It just moves backward and forwards, the trigger stays there, and I take it off when I relax afterwards. I'm not tense, but when I'm ready to afterwards. Then we're actually watching. You'll notice, yep, I don't keep my eyes open there. There is a reasonable bang. There is no, because of the design of my muzzle brakes, I'm not dealing with any percussion in the face or that sort of stuff. Neither are me and Sam are getting hit with anything and that type of thing, but there's still a reasonable bang. So eyes blink shut, we stay on there, then watching for the bullet to land, and then making adjustments beyond that. So the last bit I'd say, I want to try and keep these videos shorter and this sort of stuff, is the adjustments from that. From your cold bore shot, I don't take a full adjustment from there. It's not like shooting on paper at 100 yards where you sort of can. It's 1 inch over here, so you go 1 inch across here, and it should be on. With extreme long range and with shooting into grass and that sort of stuff, it isn't straightforward exactly how much you want it to go. As you can imagine, you're shooting down there, and what can be 1 MOA difference in what it looks like can be 4 MOA or 3 MOA difference in the shot elevation you need. But we've also got cold bore. And as much as I'm trying to pack everything and make everything completely consistent, both the machinery, be it the setup, be it the bullet cold bore down the barrel, or be it the human, aren't necessarily perfect. So I'll tend to make half or 2/3 the adjustment on their first adjustment, and it won't be, generally it'll be 3 shots, maybe 4 shots before I'm completely pretty locked in my mind that this adjustment is going to make sense of what I'm going to get there. As you can see with this shoot here, we're only at I think that was 5 shots and it hit, 4 or 5 shots and it hit, but that worked. There's one that I went too far and I sort of was trying to sort of get a little bit further and I adjusted earlier than I should have. But then after that, then realized what I'd done, then held, well, I adjusted too high, so then I held low and did that 2 shots in a row. And yeah, first one of those shots, we're like, okay, where'd it go? It's just behind. Second shot through the middle of can. So like I said, keeping it quick, that's the process of what I'm going through there. Those are the reasons for it. I'll go through and explain more about how we're reading weather, about long range trajectory, that sort of stuff, about how the rifle's set up. But that's one there that I hope you garner some info from. Yeah, what's that? Other than that, thank you very much for checking in. We'll catch you next time.